Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. I have the bass on the bench because I think I'm finally ready to tear into it and rewire it, restring it, put the new bridge on it, all that sort of stuff. And I'm ready because I finally got an answer to a question that I feel like every new bass player has and nobody ever gives them the answer to. And that is, how high is your action? Action specifically refers to the height of the string above the frets. And this is an important thing. On an electric instrument, that height is usually pretty low. And it's important because this is how much force it takes. You know, the lower it is, the less force it takes to sound a note, because you don't have to push as hard. And that's fatigue, right? Like this is a micro thing to push the string down a millimeter or whatever it might be. But the less you have to do that, the longer you can play and whatever. So everybody asked that question. Every newbie asked that question. And I had that same question. And the answers that you get online are the same answer from every player ever, as low as it can possibly be without buzzing. Because what happens is this the string is not evenly spaced from top to bottom. At the bottom, it's much farther away. Because as you press on these strings, you need this. I'm pressing here. I need this string to not hit this fret. If it does, it buzzes and it sounds gross. So if it gets too low, then I'm just hitting this next fret. So they go up as you come up the neck. There's also a thing called neck relief, which is whether the neck is bowed or flat, or it'd be a bad idea if it was bowed the opposite way. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, and nobody ever really gives you a solid answer, other than like manufacturers. They have specifications for how high the string should be at the 12th fret or 15th fret or whatever. You can look that up. You can buy a little fret ruler. I didn't bring mine down yet because I'm not ready to restring it. But it's a question. So this past week, I was in a bar. I got to talking with the bass player from the Rumjacks, Johnny, and I said, "Johnny, how high is your action?" And he gave me the canned response. It is as high as it can. It's as low as I can go without buzzing. And I said, "What's that mean for you?" Like buzzing. Here's the other thing: buzzing when you're playing acoustically, so it's not plugged into an amp. If I'm not plugged into an amp, I'm getting no buzz here, unless I don't know if you can hear that, but if I go at it, I'm going to get a buzz. That's called dynamics. That's fine. We want that. We want to be able to play a nice clean note and then just dig in and play that gross note. Or does it mean buzzing when you pick your finger up? Like I still don't have a great finger lift technique, so sometimes my frets buzz just because the string is still vibrating when I lift my finger and it's vibrating on the fret I just touched. None of that is heard through the amp. Like it takes some pretty serious buzz before you hear it as a buzz through the amp. You will hear a little extra something when you dig in and you get that slap, but you don't really hear it. Like those normal fret sounds, you don't hear this stuff through the amp when you're playing with a band. And that's when Johnny said, "Do you want to play my bass?" And I said, "Yeah, I do want to play your bass." And so I got to. And part of the reason I talked to him, first of all, was he was on stage and he has a PJ. He has a Fender, it was called, I think it was like a Precision Special or a Jazz Special or something like that, that had a P-bass pickup and a jazz bass bridge pickup. So it's kind of a hybrid. And I could see some writing on the pickups. And I was like, I'm pretty sure those are Seymour Duncan pickups. I want to ask him about that. And so I asked him, I was like, "Are you using Seymour Duncans?" And he said, "Yes, I've put them in everything that I've ever used. They're way hotter, meaning they produce more sound." And he likes that. And I said, "Cool." And then I talked to him about it. And then that's when he said, "Do you want to play my bass?" So what I found out was, when I picked his bass up, his action is actually functionally identical to what I have set here, which is manufacturer's spec-ish. I might be a little lower than manufacturer's spec, but it's whatever. It's negligible if I am. His neck relief. Actually, I think I've got a little too much neck relief on this bass. It's about the same, almost identical. Maybe I could go slightly. I have a little bit more curve. I could maybe go slightly flatter. I think that my Stingray is almost flat, which whatever. The reason I wanted to know all these questions is because I'm going to be putting. Here's all my new stuff. I'm going to be putting Fender's high mass bridge on. Now this is just like a real thick brass metal bridge that replaces, this is the bridge on the guitar. And people say it increases sustain, whatever. I don't necessarily believe that. I don't believe that if it does, it's a noticeable amount, except for if you're scoping it and looking at it on an instrument. What it does do, however, is add weight to this side of the bass, which makes it sit a little more naturally down. Right now with the strap on, if I let it go, it just slowly starts to fall this way, which is kind of annoying because I'm using my arm or my hand to kind of hold things up, and it's a little fatiguing. So I'm hoping this will correct it. The problem is, this thing is about 1/4 of an inch thick, and that means that this, especially this last string, this G string, I'm not going to be able to get it super low to the frets. I'll probably be able to get it where it is right now, and that's about as low as it can possibly go. And that's why I wanted to know, like, what am I getting myself into? Because I have seen people who play with strings much lower than mine, but they also like that gritty sound. Playing Johnny's bass and seeing that he plays super cool punk lines, super fast lines with action that's about as high as mine means I'm not worried about this saddle or this, it's not a saddle, this bridge at all raising my strings to some ugly height. So that was a really cool conversation. I also got to talk to him about his whole setup. So he has an passive, meaning there's no electronics in his bass, PJ bass, that he keeps everything just full crank. He goes through a Sans amp, which is, it's an EQ pedal, but it can also be used in lieu of an amp. It takes like the EQ section of an amp and just sends it direct to the house so they could put it through the PA. He has like the mids and highs turned all the way up, and his presence knob turned all the way up, which is wild. Like, it's a wild sound. But out front and through the PA, it's phenomenal. Like, it's got good thump, but it also has that grit that kind of just, it hits you a little bit and it gets through everything. When you're playing in a band that's got like, the Rumjacks are a 6-piece, and they have an accordion player, they have a tin whistle, they have acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums. It can be kind of hard to hear the bass through all of that. You can feel it for sure, but with his stuff cranked, you can feel it and hear it. And it was a really cool sound, and I really liked it. So he took the time to show me all of that, and man, that was a phenomenal lesson. Like, it was like having an actual bass lesson. And he talked to me a good bit about technique and stuff, which was really cool. It was really, really, really cool. So I thank you, Johnny, for taking all that time. But that means I'm no longer worried about this, because the fix, if this was to go on and I can't get the strings as low as I want, they sell shims that angle the neck a little bit. Like, I'm talking like 1/2 degree of angle, which will bring the strings closer at the base, which is ultimately what you need, if whatever. So the other things I'm going to be doing to this is replacing the potentiometers in here. I have one no-load potentiometer. This is basically means that when it's at 10, it's off. It's like not a part of the circuit anymore. So this tone knob, I'll be able to just turn it completely off, and it will be completely bypassed and won't affect the sound at all. On a standard potentiometer, there's a little bit of load even at the end, and so you're getting a little bit of the tone in there. And I'm just going to fiddle with it. These are better potentiometers than what's in here. Pickup on this thing I'm super happy with. I'm going to cavity wrap the cavity in foil tape. Not really necessary on a P-bass. This has a humbucker. It's not going to pick up a whole lot of magnetic interference, but it doesn't hurt, and it's like $5 or something, whatever. And then I've got a set of flat wounds I'm putting on this, which changes the sound of the bass significantly. It makes it very light, very boomy. It doesn't have that twang, twang, twang like a guitar does. It's more of a traditional upright bass sound, more mellow. So I'm ready to tackle this project. I think I might attempt it tonight and maybe play it a little bit, see what I think of it. But I have the Stingray in case everything goes horribly wrong, which I don't think it will. Okay, got any questions? I don't know what I'm talking about here. Just keep in mind, this is all me learning, and I'm just telling you what I've learned. So please don't take any of this as like, the bass guy said to do this. No, I'm not the bass guy yet. I've only been playing for 4 months, 5 months. Don't listen to me, kids. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful people do differently. We are talking about 6 ways to find gratitude when everything goes wrong. And number 4 is finding gratitude after a job loss. No one wins at chess by only moving forward. Sometimes you have to move backward and put yourself in a position to win. And that's a good metaphor for your life's work as well. As painful as losing your job is, it's an ending that leads to the beginning of everything that comes next. Let the heaviness of being successful be replaced by the lightness of starting over. This new beginning is the start of a different story, the opportunity to refresh your life, to reinvent who you are. Remind yourself as often as necessary that you can find gratitude for where you are. You can find gratitude for these moments of reinvention, for pushing into the discomfort of getting good at interviewing, learning new skills, and leveling up. You can find gratitude for the opportunity to grow stronger, even in the midst of growing pains that ultimately get you there. At 29 years old, 30 years old. At 30 years old, I was fired from my job as a mechanic. I was a master certified Chrysler technician, worked on a Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and I was let go. And it was my fault, whatever. Took a year to get a new job. I worked during that time for a guy, cash under the table kind of thing. I ended up working in IT, then programming and project management, and I'm now way more successful, way more happy, and I'm very thankful that that job fired me, because I probably would have just continued to be a poorly paid mechanic for a very long time.